But first to the big breaking news that's coming in at the moment. Joe Biden set to cross 270 and become the next president of America. That's right, Joe Biden is now leading in Pennsylvania and Georgia. If he wins both the states, he could even cross the 300 mark. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has alleged fraud in counting and refuses to accept defeat. Team Trump says it will seek a recount, claiming and insists that he will win the polls, especially in the 4 contentious states. So that's the big story that's coming in at the moment. Okay, let's tell you again, as I said, the big numbers. Joe Biden is now at 264 if you include Arizona, just 6 short of that majority in the Electoral College. These are the states that still hold the key. There is North Carolina, where Mr. Trump has a slight lead, 50.1% to 48.7%, and is expected to win the state. Arizona is still not finally counted, and Trump has made some kind of a comeback there, but he still remains behind Joe Biden in Arizona. 90% has been counted. The state which is clearly also critical is Nevada, where at the moment there's a slight lead that Joe Biden continues to hold over Donald Trump, a lead of about 1% at the moment. These are 3 of the key states, but remember, there's also Pennsylvania and Georgia, where it appears that the complete picture has turned in the last 24 hours. Pennsylvania, where you can clearly see Joe Biden has taken a small lead of 5,594. He's come back strongly in all the mail-in ballots. Once he wins Pennsylvania, there's little way in which he can be stopped from becoming the next president. The other one, of course, is Georgia. Now, this is a state which the Democrats haven't won since Bill Clinton won it for them in 1992. So this would be a real turn-up for the books. Again, the lead is a very narrow one, less than 1,000 votes at the moment. But what is very clear is that Joe Biden, the Democratic presidential candidate now, has a clear edge over his Republican rival Donald Trump. And if the latest trends continue, the White House could see a real change in guard. Trump, though, is refusing to give in. It's our top story tonight.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us.
Each ballot must be counted. And that's what we're going to see going through now. And that's how it should be.
Inch by inch, vote by vote, Joe Biden is gaining on Donald Trump in the race for America. It all boils down to the 6 states of Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. Biden has crawled into lead in Georgia, a state with 16 electoral votes. If Biden holds on to the lead in Arizona, he will need just 6 electoral votes. A victory in Georgia or Nevada will take him to the magic figure of 270. US President Trump, on the other hand, needs to win all the states.
7 days from now.
Trump is now calling postal ballots a fraud.
We think we will win the election very easily. We think there's going to be a lot of litigation because we have so much evidence, so much proof. Can't have an election stolen like this. It's not a question of who wins, Republican, Democrat, Joe, myself. We can't let that happen to our country. We can't be disgraced by having something like this happen.
Joe Biden had been encouraging his supporters to vote through mail because Democrats have been saying that's the more safe way to mail. Whereas the president, who has been casting doubt on the mail-in vote system, was telling his supporters go out and vote in person because he doesn't trust the mail-in vote system. Having said that, there is absolutely no evidence of any widespread fraud in the mail ballot system.
3 major news channels of the United States stopped telecasting Trump's controversial press conference where he claimed the elections were rigged. The news channels said Trump was making allegations without any proof to back them. Trump's team, meanwhile, has filed a lawsuit in Nevada alleging electoral malpractice. Republicans have already lost the lawsuit in Michigan and Georgia. And in Pennsylvania, the court has ruled that Democrats and Republicans will have equal access to the ballot counting operations. Meanwhile, all calm and confident, the Biden-Harris campaign has formed a Biden Fight Fund in the anticipation of pricey court battles.
Democracy is sometimes messy. It sometimes requires a little patience as well. We have no doubt that when the count is finished, Senator Harris and I will be declared the winners. So I ask everyone to stay calm, all the people to stay calm. The process is working. The count is being completed, and we'll know very soon.
The big question now in the United States is not who will win, but if Trump will obey the people's verdict if it goes against him. With Pratiksha Gildial in Washington, D.C., Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's go first straight to Washington, D.C., where I'm joined by Natalie Jennings. She's political editor at the Washington Post. I also hope to be joined by Cindy Sain, the Voice of America correspondent. Appreciate both of you joining us. Let me come to you, Natalie, first. It appears we are in for a very long, drawn-out, protracted battle because Donald Trump seems unwilling to accept these results. What really are his options now?
Well, we will know probably within a couple of hours whether media organizations, the vote counts, everything like that will determine if Pennsylvania goes to Joe Biden. And if that is the case, then based on the numbers, Joe Biden will be president-elect. I think, yes, like you say, the question after that is how far does President Trump push with his, not being able to, not formally accepting the results. And even if he doesn't formally accept them by saying, I concede that Joe Biden won this race, how hard does he fight? Does he just not formally accept the results, or does he really push his supporters? And that is what determines how long we're going to be waiting on this.
Because the sense one gets, Natalie, is he's not willing to accept this result. He's just issued a press statement saying that he believes that he's won the count in these 4 states and he's going to fight it out. Can he? There was an article in the Washington Post by Fareed Zakaria that seemed to suggest that he can actually take this in a way constitutionally and continue to fight and reject the vote. Is that really possible?
He can go into court fights and try to litigate small matters, but he would have to change a lot of votes to change that. So it's really becomes a question of his attitude and his posture and how much discontent he wants to sow. Technically, the numbers will be in, and unless something is really proven solidly to change those numbers, and there's not proof at this point that there's any reason for that, it becomes a bit of a argument over his posture and how much he wants to sow division. It could be very bad, but we're trying to report at the Washington Post to understand whether this is bluster at this point, whether this is something that he really wants to press, and whether he'll push this very hard in terms of the legal fights, or just not technically say, I accept the results. I think that's what we're looking at now. And of course, pushing it really hard becomes a much more divisive thing.
Cindy Sain of the VOA, when do we expect that Joe Biden will actually claim victory? Because it appears as of tonight, we will only probably get a final result, a final projection with numbers possibly for Georgia. All the other states could go on into the weekend. Do you see the Democratic challenger claiming victory tonight itself?
Well, that's a good question. And we've all been on this emotional roller coaster together. And as the votes are still counted, the votes are still being counted in so many states. And as we've been saying, it does look good for Biden. So far now, he is leading in these major states, except for North Carolina. So right now, VOA has been cautious. We still have Biden at 253 and Trump at 214. But as everyone knows, a win in Pennsylvania for Biden, that's 20 electoral votes. That's all he needs to win. So we're expecting that, as I would say, for Pennsylvania to be called as soon as this evening, our time. And so once Pennsylvania has been called, I think we could expect Biden to come out. And I also, the Washington Post is reporting that Biden is getting more Secret Service protection there in Wilmington, Delaware, at his home. So there's some signs that behind the scenes things are moving forward.
But we still don't know whether Mr. Trump is going to go away into the sunset quietly, right?
That's correct. And as you said, his campaign just put out a notice saying this is not over. I noted with interest that the Republican Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, tweeted this just a little while ago, all legal votes must be counted, which seems to be the talking point or the argument for President Trump and his supporters, making this distinction between count all the votes and count the legal votes, somehow implying that some of the votes may not be legal. But as we've been saying, there is no evidence of widespread voter fraud or that it's a rigged election or anything like that.
Natalie, one final question. How do you see this playing out in terms of the public looking at their leadership, looking at a president at the moment who appears to be losing, Natalie, and is unwilling to accept the result? I mean, is there a sense of anger? Is there a sense of despair? Or is America just so deeply divided that Mr. Trump is playing into those divisions?
Very good question. I think the people who oppose Trump feel very, even with the Biden win and knowing that he would Trump would be on his way out of office, the way Trump handles that would certainly instill a lot of feelings of despair. And I think even just the numbers and knowing how close this election is takes the wind out of people who want Trump out of office and how strongly they feel about this win. Of course, it could be worse if Trump makes the situation worse by fighting what's a clear win for Biden. And the other, question is how Trump's supporters respond and how many of these people who voted for Trump are going to side with him in terms of his reluctance to let it go. We don't know yet how many people who supported Trump, which is not totally half the country, but close to it, how strongly, how many of those people feel about his cause and his, if he refuses to concede, if he got an unfair result, that could scar us going forward. And we just don't know how many of those Trump supporters feel that way. Certainly a good amount, but it's not clear how many and how deep the division will be. I mean, certainly there is a big, deep divide, but it could be worsened over the next couple of weeks.
Natalie Jennings, Cindy Sain, you've had a tough few days, and I guess you've got a tough few more days ahead. America clearly remains in a way in some kind of pause mode, waiting either for President Trump to concede or, as more likely, Joe Biden to claim victory at the moment. Thank you both very much for joining me there from Washington, D.C. on that drama that's playing out in the U.S. presidential elections. Trump clearly is the big bully. He doesn't want to leave the White House. Okay, let's turn from the White House back home and let's turn to the swirling controversy that is now building up over various states deciding to ban firecrackers ahead of Diwali in COVID times. Karnataka today became the latest state to do so. The ban comes in view of the ongoing pandemic. States in North India are especially vulnerable as many of them are under a thick blanket of smog due to farm fires already. Delhi in particular is facing a double whammy, posting record number of COVID cases every day, even as its air quality sinks. The question is, should the firecracker ban now be extended across the country? It's our other top talking point tonight.
The national capital is fighting a two-front war. First, the spurt in COVID-19 cases, and now the spike in pollution levels.
The spot from where I'm standing, you cannot see India Gate. The iconic monument has now been engulfed in thick smog. This air is poisonous for anyone who breathes it.
With the raging farm fires and a fall in wind speed and temperatures, air quality in the national capital continues to deteriorate.
रात में हवाएं चल नहीं रही हैं तो सवेरे के टाइम में सवेरे के समय ये धुंध की स्थिति लगभग बनी रहेगी और जो एक हफ्ते का फोरकास्ट है उसके हिसाब से हमारे पास इसमें कोई खास चेंज नहीं आएगा। हालांकि जो दिन में है हमारे पास जब टेम्परेचर थोड़ा सा बढ़ेगा तापमान में वृद्धि होगी तो उस समय आपके पास धुंध की स्थिति में थोड़ा सा सुधार होगा।
The plummeting air quality comes when Delhi is recording close to 7,000 COVID cases daily. The hazy air could prove catastrophic to COVID patients and others suffering from respiratory disorders.
Pollution impacted areas and communities have higher chance of getting COVID infection, all other factors remaining same. In a pollution impacted community or person, if corona does occur, he has higher chance of dying of corona.
Taking note of the alarming situation, the Delhi government has put a blanket ban on firecrackers from 7th November till the 30th.
Pollution भी और कोविड भी दोनों ही चीज़ें दोनों अपने आप में खतरनाक हैं और मुझे लगता है पोल्यूशन से बचने के लिए भी और कोविड से बचने के लिए भी मुझे लगता है कम से कम नवंबर के महीने में तो कसम खा लें कि मास्क के बिना बाहर नहीं निकलेंगे। Mask is your vaccine.
However, for the fight against pollution, the National Green Tribunal has once again asked the Delhi government whether or not green crackers should also be banned during this festive season, as the air quality continues to deteriorate and doesn't show any signs of improvement. Milan Sharma for India Today.
Let's raise the big questions then on the show. Should there be a nationwide ban on firecrackers? Are some states hesitant to ban firecrackers? Do firecrackers pose an immediate health emergency? These are some of the questions I want to raise tonight. Dr. Santosh Harish is fellow at the Center for Policy Research. He's been tracking this as an environmental policy expert. Dr. Vivek Nangia is Principal Director and Head Pulmonology at the Max Super Specialty Hospital. Vinod Tikmani is Senior Committee Member, Fireworks Association. And Reena Gupta, who joins us, is a spokesperson with the Aam Aadmi Party. I want to first understand from you, Reena Gupta, that this decision that Delhi has taken to ban firecrackers, is it because we are in COVID times? Is this going to be a decision now for good every time before Diwali? Will you ban firecrackers knowing the fact that it is a pollutant? Are you doing it because of COVID, or are you doing it because on principle you believe that firecrackers are polluting?
So Rajdeep, this decision is because of the unprecedented COVID times. Delhi, as you know, has been hit with a third wave, and a lot of doctors and specialists had been advising the Chief Minister that due to the rising levels of pollution, higher COVID cases, it will not be advisable to burst firecrackers in Delhi this year, because as you know that just before Diwali, because of firecrackers, the pollution levels go up 50 or 100 times, and it is very, very difficult for the young kids and for the older people in Delhi to be able to sustain during those days. So the decision for now is because of COVID. And I'm very grateful as a mother and as somebody who has old parents that the Chief Minister has actually taken this decision. And I would request through your channel, the neighboring states around Delhi, I hope they will also take a similar decision, because a ban in Delhi does not really mean anything.
But for now it's only for 2020? But are you telling me for now it's only for 2020? Are you telling me next year things are going to get suddenly transformed? Why not say that we in principle believe that crackers are bad for the health? Or crackers are injurious to the, are bad for our pollution levels?
Crackers are injurious to the pollution levels, but at the same time, Diwali is a big festival in India, and one has to also respect that sentiment. And hopefully the next year, we will not be in the same situation, and the pollution problem will improve next year. Let's hope so. Okay. The government of Delhi is taking a number of measures, and I hope the central government as well spends the next 12 months really trying to solve this pollution issue.
Okay, let's look at that connection between firecrackers and COVID. Dr. Vivek Nangia, your principal director and head pulmonology at Max, give us a sense. Is there a direct connection between possible rise in COVID cases, not just in Delhi, but across the country? Karnataka is the latest state to ban firecrackers, and the use of firecrackers. Are firecrackers a hazard in COVID times, potentially leading to an excess of COVID cases?
Thank you, Rajdeep, for asking me this very important question. I think we need to start from what are the damages that firecrackers can do to our bodies, actually. So to begin with, of course, it can cause burns, it can cause injuries, it can cause respiratory tract asthmas, it could trigger off allergies, it could precipitate COPD, acute exacerbation. And that is primarily because there are these 4 or 5 crackers which generate very high levels of pollution, probably 200 to 2,000 times higher than what are permissible by the World Health Organization, that is WHO. And these are those Phuljadis, Anar, and Ladi, and Pirkari, or the Chakri, you know, the one which revolves on the ground. So these are the ones which actually result in a lot of air pollution. Air pollution, as we all know, damages our lungs directly. A particle size less than 0.25 or less than 2.5 microns would go directly into the lungs and trigger off an inflammatory cascade, thus providing a very hotbed for any kind of virus. I mean, right now it's the COVID virus which is raging.
But that's every year. That's every year. My point is, this year in COVID times, is there a particular danger associated with bursting firecrackers?
That's exactly what I was coming to. That, you know, because we are providing it a hotbed, literally like a fertile ground for the virus to proliferate and cause further damage to our body. And because the COVID virus is already in the air, so this virus also attacks the same respiratory tract which is already attacked by the air pollution. So we're actually worsening the air pollution with the firecrackers and creating a very challenging kind of a situation for our own body to fight out. There's an ongoing inflammatory cascade inside the lungs. On top of that, there's a virus which is ready to invade anytime. So the local defense mechanism to prevent this virus from entering the body would be totally missing, resulting in major infections. And we've had studies from across the globe which have shown that whenever the air pollution levels are high, the number of cases of COVID go up significantly. With just 1 micron.
Can I just give some data to our viewers in a way? And maybe Vinod Tikmani, since you are a senior committee member of the Fireworks Association, आप इसका जवाब दे सकते हैं. Snake, snake जो होता है, जिस तरह से हम उसे दिवाली में यूज करते हैं, 464 cigarettes. Fuljadi is about 74 cigarettes. Chakri is 68 cigarettes. Anar is 34 cigarettes. Do you think that the time has come for the firecracker industry also to look कि यार कुछ नया करते हैं? ये तो, this is too much. Nobody is going to accept these numbers. These numbers are going to destroy young people's lives.
Sir, I just would like to highlight a few points कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट में ये केस 2015 से चलते आ रहा है एंड अभी वहाँ पे नीरी के गाइडेंस में पेसो रेगुलेट किए हुए क्रैकर्स अभी बनाए जा रहे हैं which are comparatively less pollutant and it is within the Supreme Court guidelines. We are not developing it and वही क्रैकर्स अभी मार्केट में बिक रहे हैं. Secondly, as you said about cigarettes are being smoken overall the whole of the year. And crackers are burst only 2 hours in the whole year. 2 hours. I will very specifically highlight Supreme Court has given guidelines that it has to be burst only 2 hours. ये पूरे साल में 2 घंटे चलते हैं. दूसरी मैं एक चीज हाईलाइट करना चाहूंगा. NGT had presented a report in 2016 for the reasons of pollution to be done in Delhi and around Delhi. There were 7 main items. Like construction activity, burning of solid waste, burning of agricultural residue and blah blah blah. And crackers are not in that list.
You're making an interesting point. You're making an interesting point
which has been taken into observation.
You're making an interesting point that you're saying, you know, why are you singling out crackers?
I would like to highlight one more 2 points.
Yes.
IIT Kanpur has...
Go ahead.
Yeah. IIT Kanpur has given a report which has been taken into observation by the Supreme Court, where they have asked what was the proportion of firecrackers in the pollution, and they were like, we are not into a position to inform what is the extent, and it is a minimal extent, insignificant extent. It has been it is taking into the toll in the pollution.
Let me now differ
and
with
based
you,
on
sir.
that, the Supreme Court has given orders.
Sir, for the week of Diwali, it is clear that crackers are a major contributor. Let me ask this to Dr. Santosh Harish. You are listening to what a representative of the Firecrackers Association is suggesting, saying, why are you singling out crackers? We've already seen what stubble burning does. Construction goes on through the year. There is a vehicular pollution. Why are we singling out crackers? Santosh Harish, your response?
We are singling out crackers, I think, because it makes a very bad situation much worse. The gentleman's right in that, if you're looking at the contribution to pollution levels across the year, fireworks are certainly a small fraction. But during these days, right, it makes absent stubble burning, absent fireworks, the pollution levels would have been very high anyway. On top of that, we have added the stubble burning contribution. As of today, for instance, that contribution is about 20%, as per SAFAR, right?
But why single out crackers? The point is, why single out crackers? Why are we singling out crackers?
Well, I mean, so I would agree with that in the sense we want to be tackling all of the sources in parallel, not just singling out stubble burning or fireworks. That's a perfectly valid point. But this year, right, and in general, fireworks, because of the additional spike that it leads to, it plays havoc with vulnerable groups, right? Leads to asthma and so forth.
No, but we can leave it to those individuals. We can put, look, let's be very clear. Individuals who burst crackers, and let's turn to the politician on this question. Reena Gupta, individuals who burst crackers know exactly what they are getting into. They know the hazards associated with it. The choice is theirs. It's like smoking cigarettes. The choice is theirs. You want to kill yourself, you want to get into have chest infections, go ahead, burst crackers. Leave it to individuals. Why don't you leave it to citizens to decide? Why enforce it through a state diktat?
Actually, Rajdeep, that's an interesting point that you raise. It is when an individual bursts crackers, you're not just polluting your air, you're polluting the whole air. Okay, so this is the reason why smoking is banned in certain places, right? Because there is also a lot of passive smoking that it leads to. So when individual action is leading to a larger harm to the society, these kind of actions would have to, be taken by governments. Having said that, the point our friend from the Firecracker Association was making, actually the Delhi government first looked into green crackers. And we realized that the whole regulation of green crackers, there is not enough clarity what are green crackers do. Two, the availability of green crackers is very low. And that is the reason why we said that this year at least, because everybody's lungs are already so compromised because of pollution and because of COVID, we cannot take this chance of, that spike again because of the Diwali firecrackers. So this year, it's, the ban is only for this year.
No, good point.
And I really hope that we can work together.
That's a good point being made. ये साल तो हमें बचा दीजिए. ये एक साल अगर क्रैकर नहीं चले तो क्या नुकसान होगा? एक साल, the government is saying this is for 1 year.
Sir, मैं आपको थोड़ा.
And where are these green crackers? Last year I went looking for green crackers. I did not find enough of green crackers in the market. कहाँ है ये green crackers?
Say they are already into market, sir. They are already into market.
Not enough.
Sir, last year say they had the production was stopped for 6 months at least, just so that the green crackers could be produced and manufactured, and the whole process of production and manufacture was stopped for more than 6 months. I should say that first. Second point I would like to highlight is the whole demography of our country is different. Delhi is different, Maharashtra is different. So saying banning it for the whole of India would not be a right thing, I should say. And
sir, if people's chest is the same, I can get a chest infection if I'm sitting in Kerala or in Mumbai or in Kolkata or Delhi. Let's be fair. My point is, cracker industry will also have to look at the bigger picture.
For this year, I would just like to explain, just a minute, if you can allow me a minute, sir. Sir, I would like to just highlight, this thing is going on from years. Corona is there from March. Now we are just 1 week ahead from Diwali. Right. See, as a farmer, if a farmer sows seeds, they grow the plants and then cut it. now it is a time to cut and sell. At that time, you are making a decision to ban. If you pre-inform us in December or in November, the whole process starts is like in December, Jan, we make our orders and send it. We are traders. Then the manufacturers manufacture it, and then in this period, we do the selling in the last 4, 7, 10 days. And why to make decisions in the last minute? That is my major question. If you tell us in December or November, Jan, even if the corona had come, the peak season was in May, June, if some intimation was given, we would have not bought so much crackers and to sell. We have to meet the demand.
No, I understand.
And why
no,
to take
I can understand. I understand. Vinod Tikmani, no one wants you to suffer economically.
The whole crop, and there is a storm.
Sir, I take your point. It is therefore a difficult decision for a government to take, to completely overnight decide to ban crackers. Dr. Vivek Nangia, is there a middle ground at all on this issue? Do you believe that, as is being suggested by some, that look, green crackers are the way forward, don't have a complete ban on it? Are you saying that crackers actually damage our health to the extent that they do? We've been playing crackers for years in this country.
Yeah, Rajdeep, but unfortunately, we've moved on to crackers. Actually, Diwali was a festival of lights. Even now, if you see, we call it a festival of lights and not a festival of crackers. But for some reason, over the years, we've moved on to crackers and are not realizing how we are spoiling our own health. I think we need to be a little more innovative and probably move on to some laser light shows or some green crackers which are actually green, truly green in nature, which do not emit any kind of smoke. They may be producing the similar kind of sound and a similar kind of an effect without actually contributing to the air pollution. We are already seeing that the AQI levels are crossing 500 in Delhi NCR these days. Imagine what will happen on Diwali night if we continue with this kind of a pollution levels. Probably we would be touching 1,000 or something on that.
No, I take your point, and it's completely out of control in a way. But is there anything, Dr. Santosh Harish, to suggest that different parts of the country? Okay, we'll try and go to Dr. Santosh Harish in a moment. But the point I was trying to make is that is there a middle ground between saying a complete ban on crackers and, as Vinod Tikmani is saying, allow us at least to sell our green crackers, allow us to inform us in advance if you intend to take such decisions. Reena Gupta, do you believe that's possible, or do you believe 2020, year of COVID, all of us have to make sacrifices, and one of the sacrifices is this year, no crackers?
So Rajdeep, this year definitely we all have to make sacrifices, and one of them is no crackers. Having said that, with all this pressure from the Supreme Court, NGT, I'm really hoping that the cracker industry will also reform itself, and it would come out with alternatives which are, less polluting and which are better for the health. And just going back to what Dr. Nangia was saying, last year we did organize a laser show in Connaught Place, and the plan was to do it again this year, but due to COVID conditions, we could not do a laser show. But I think moving forward, as a community also, we should figure out better ways of celebrating Diwali, be it through laser shows, or maybe we do community fireworks in a few places in Delhi, and all of us get together there instead of all of us doing fireworks in our own gully and mohallas. Maybe just choose 2-3 points in Delhi and we have fireworks there, or have laser shows. But having said that, even this blanket ban on Delhi will not work unless we as citizens of Delhi decide that this year we are not going to burst firecrackers, because the ban is only in Delhi. If somebody wants to burst, they can easily go to Gurgaon and Noida and buy from there. And I don't think we have the kind of vigilance of police on the ground.
No, at the moment in Haryana, we have a strange rule, Dr. Nangia, that imported crackers will be banned. I'm just wondering, can you have a halfway house measure, or have you to be very clear this year? A complete ban. Would you support a nationwide ban as one of the country's top pulmonologists? Should 2020 be a complete ban on crackers?
I think this year we should. I guess we'll all have to sacrifice towards it, the way we've been sacrificing for so many other things as well. But this year, because of COVID, we are already facing a huge challenge in the healthcare industry. We are short of beds. The ICU beds are not available. Now, in the last 1 week or so, even the ward beds are not available for the patients. We're having a major crisis. And, after all, you also have to understand that even if the beds are available, even the doctors are getting exhausted now. Wearing PPEs all the time is really not easy.
Oh, sure.
And being inside, risking our own lives, all the time thinking that the sword is dangling on our heads, at any time it may just fall. So we're also going through major pressures, and anything that would actually increase the number of corona cases is not going to be appreciated at all by anybody in the medical fraternity. I can assure you that.
I think you make a very, I think you make a very fine point. As a father of a young doctor, I can only completely empathize with what you've said. I know how difficult the last several months have been for those in the medical profession. Dr. Santosh Harish, you are back with us. You want to give us a final point. Do you believe also this is a year for a nationwide ban, or do we need a cracker policy for the future? It can't just be for 2020. Do we need a policy for the future so that the likes of the Firecrackers Association can also plan for the future?
Yeah, no, I definitely, actually, the answer would be yes to both of those questions. This year, I do hope other states also follow suit, especially those in the Indo-Gangetic plain, but more generally, because there is definitely this sort of double threat, pollution exposure, and from there, the risk of increasing the severity of COVID and so forth. And going forward, what the representative from the Firecracker Association said was absolutely on point. These should be anticipated and signaled in advance. This was not a surprise that the levels get bad apocalyptic during this time, and taking these last-minute decisions is unfair to everybody. There should be a more thoughtful policy as to what is allowed, how much is allowed. And I just want to quickly make the point that green crackers certainly sound great, but they emit 30% less emissions. So if there was an argument for not bursting firecrackers, like the traditional kinds, green crackers aren't that much better. So, so I think we need to be realistic as to how much of a solution.
That's an important element that you've just added. I want to leave my guests with a thought that Vimlendu Jha, an environmental activist, has just put out on Twitter to me. Let's be fair. Diwali is a festival of lights. It's not of firecrackers and never can be a festival, or its custom be by design fatal and harmful. Bring the air quality index back to 50 and then you can burst as many firecrackers you want on Diwali night. Till then, think, stop. Maybe there is something to be said there. Let's get the AQ levels down and then find a way by which we can celebrate Diwali in the traditional way with lights and crackers, but do it as responsible citizens. This is the year of COVID. We need to be responsible citizens above all else. Thank you all very much for joining me here on our talking point this evening. I hope that the message goes out loud and clear. This is not the year for Diwali firecrackers. It is a real story of good news, because the stereotype of Bihar is a state that is lost out, and the women have lost out in particular. But here is a story that will lift our spirits, because some learn cooking watching videos online. Many learn to play musical instruments via virtual classes. But it's rare that someone learns a sport, particularly a sport like rugby, alien in a way to India, by watching YouTube videos in her small town in Bihar, and then goes on to become a part of the national team. India Today's Rahul Srivastav met Shweta Shahi, a self-taught professional rugby player, at a polling booth in her village in Bihar. Today's good news story is one you must watch.
Nalanda may be one of the 250 most backward districts of India. Bhadari may be a small nondescript village, but the voter list here includes a state election brand ambassador. She practiced on the village roads, could run faster and longer than her competitors. After someone mentioned a sport called rugby alien to Bihar, she subscribed to a virtual coach with videos on YouTube. Meet Shweta Shahi, who's journeyed from Bhadari to 5 international events as member of the Indian women rugby team.
आप एथलेटिक्स सड़क पे करते थे और YouTube से आप रग्बी सीखे?
यस सर, मैं YouTube से रग्बी सीखी हूँ।
कितना टाइम?
मैं अभी भी YouTube से ही देखे, क्योंकि बिहार का भी टीम है तो सब अलग-अलग जगह है।
What does Bihar need most? She says jobs and quality education. She knows from personal experience how the education system in Bihar is failing its youth.
मैं ग्रेजुएशन कर रही हूँ तो अभी तक 4 साल हो गया है मगध यूनिवर्सिटी अभी ग्रेजुएशन फाइनल नहीं करवा पाई है।
यानी ये 3 साल का कोर्स होता है ना?
यस सर, 3 साल का कोर्स होता है। अभी तक 4 साल हो गया, अभी तक मेरा एग्जाम नहीं हुआ है, तो पता नहीं 4 साल होगा या 5 साल होगा, उसको हम नहीं बता सकते।
At one time, her family faced barbs from the villagers. Today, they stage road shows on her return from an international event. She imparts free rugby coaching to 80 boys and girls. But Bihar's current state is proving tough for a rugby player known for mean tackles. With Rahul Srivastava, Bureau Report, India Today.
Quite a story that Rahul Srivastava brought us there. Okay, remember, let's return to the story of this week, which is Biden versus Trump. Now, Trump is taking the concept of being a sore loser down to, well, new levels, new lows. While Joe Biden appears poised to trump Mr. Trump, there is no challenging Mr. Trump when it comes to social media. He's easily the most discussed person online. Netizens are continuing to churn out memes on him. Take a look at some of them.
Donald Trump may or may not win the presidential elections, but he wins the social media fight hands down. He remains the most discussed person. 17-year-old climate activist Greta Thunberg called out Trump's demands to stop the vote count, advising him to address anger management issues. In doing so, she was paying back the American president using his own words. With Trump showing all indications of dishonoring the people's verdict if it goes against him, memes are flooding the social media. The football takedown is a popular theme doing the rounds. Not just fresh ones, even old Trump memes got a new life.
What were you doing? You know, sound like you were just going, what was that?
Well, you're wrong again, Obama. I wasn't going, get it right.
Well, you know, you really got to start taking responsibility for all your...
Look, Obama, I really don't need you to give me advice, okay? I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. I'm out.
And like always, an Indian great crashed the All-American Party with this one.
I'm the least racist person. I'm the least racist person. I'm the least racist person in this room. Look at China, it's filthy. Look at Russia, it's filthy. Look at India, this one, filthy, filthy, filthy. I say, come on,
But this is the one that has taken the internet by storm. Trump on January 20th refusing to leave the Oval Office.
There we go. You can stay up.
Sir, we have to get going.
What?
We have to get going, sir.
I don't want to go.
I know, but
Bureau Report, India Today.
It's time to go.
I don't want to
Sir,
go.
it's time to go.
I don't want to go.
Come on,
I don't want to go.
I know you're having fun, but it's...
I don't want to go. Donald Trump loves the White House too much to leave without kicking up a storm. We'll see where that story goes. We'll be back and the News Unlocked to give you a sense of the character of Trump and the character of Biden on the News Unlocked. Just about enough time to leave you with some more good news because India Today Network, that's Aaj Tak and India Today, has won big at the News Television Awards 2020. India Today's Vice Chairman, Kali Puri, has